Yo, this is George Dr. Funkenstein Clinton. I told y'all motherfunkers that if you're gonna get your funk on, Funktopia is the spot for your extraterrestrial funk experience. Don't believe me? Hey man, smell my finger. Go on, Christopher, do your thing. If you got funk, you got style. You're funkin' and you're styling all the while. If you got funk, you got class. You're out on the floor moving your ass. You got the funk. Give up that funk, y'all.
What is up, everybody? I hope you are doing fantastically well. This is Funkatopia Live, WTF. Welcome to Funkatopia. We're going to dig into what is probably, arguably, one of Prince's best albums, and that is Parade. And I wanted to do a special show tonight because next week I'm off. For those of you who joined a little bit late, next show I'm off. So I wanted to make sure that I brought in some people that could help me go through this album track by track, and we could all just kind of dig in together. And let me see something here. Someone's at the door. Who could it possibly be? Well, let's go ahead and put our hands together once and for all for the one, the only. Dr. Fink is in the house. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm very relaxed. Thank you.
Awesome. That's perfect.
I just got done with like almost a 3-mile hike, so I'm kind of
3-mile hike. Where'd you go?
The endorphins are running through me right now.
Wow.
Like an endorphin machine. Get it? No. Anyway, there's this great hiking park trail not far from where I live called the Murphy Hanrahan Reserve, Nature Reserve, and I go there as often as possible to try to keep myself in better shape. So my wife and I will hike there regularly.
3.5 miles? Is that what you said?
No, we did almost 3 today. Almost 3.
Almost
Not
3.
quite. Yeah. Sometimes we'll do like 3.2. On rare occasions, we'll hit 4 miles, but that's rare that we'll stay out that long because that's a long hike. That's a good hour and a half or more, hour and 45-minute hike. And like on a day like today, my wife will come home from work or I'll be doing something working. And then we have to get back in time to have dinner or make dinner. So, it's like that.
I had to talk myself into trying to regularly walk the dogs, but I don't walk them for 3 miles. They couldn't last. I mean, they're not older dogs, but you gotta work them into 3 miles.
Yeah, sure. Especially if it's hot out too. But today was beautiful. It was about 50 degrees out there, and yesterday we did it yesterday too, and it was in the low 70s. So and no wind, so it was a little bit more on the warmer side actually for this time of year. And end of March, it's not supposed to be like 73 or 4 for a high in Minnesota at the end of March. It's a bit abnormal, as we like to say, abnormal. And the issue is climate change is definitely affecting everything. In my opinion.
You guys feel it way more up there. Well, it's kind of hard to say because, down here in Atlanta, we have these really strange weather pattern that's like you get extremely cold and then it's extremely hot and it's definitely schizophrenic. But yeah, it's just the way that these weather patterns come through is ridiculous.
Well, this winter's been a roller coaster ride all over the country, I believe, with extremes going back and forth one week to the next. We've had it all winter,
I just think it's funny that there's two old guys sitting here talking about the weather on our show. So
you know what? I can
just
feel it in my bones. I'm like walking along the trail, and all of a sudden it starts like raining and
going to snow both ways.
Oh my God. Okay.
Can you believe? I'm going to ask you if you can even wrap your head around this. It has been 40 years since this album has been released. I mean,
yeah, which is why I just went into my old guy routine.
I know, right?
Jeez, 40 effing years. Oh my gosh. It doesn't feel like it though. It's weird. It's strange how time passes. We were just talking about this a few minutes ago, how time passes. You know, can you believe it's been 10 years since that one movie came out? Okay, so anyway. Yeah.
I mean already, and of course, this is the month where not only has Prince, it's been 10 years since Prince played his final concert, and 10 years since hasn't been with us. I mean, just think about how quick that 10 years has been. And it's just boggles my mind that there was however many 3,560 days between then and now that I barely have any recollection of some of the things that I accomplished or didn't accomplish or whatever during that period of time. You're right. It's just time. It just goes by so fast, and it's just stagnant.
And especially the COVID years were like this weird black hole where everything, it was like Groundhog Day where everything was the same every day and you're stuck at home, isolated during that kind of, there were months and months of that where we were all sort of mostly isolated. I mean, I tried to get out and drive around and go places as best I could and wear a mask, but it was really bizarre. Of course, me being the doctor, the day they announced COVID and we better start wearing masks, I was in the Target store wearing a mask. Nobody was wearing a mask except me. And nobody knew it was me. And everybody was giving me dirty looks. Like, why are you wearing a mask? They were looking at me funny, like nobody wears surgical masks. No, it was so out of the.
I am.
Yeah, it was so out of the ordinary, So, and I felt really awkward and like, it was very hilarious. Funny. Okay, so anyway, I digress.
Awesome. Well, no, I mean, what's funny is that when this album hit, it did make it to number 3 on the charts. I think it stayed there for like more than a couple dozen weeks. It was there for a while. Now, the one thing I will say that is interesting about this album, because we're going to dig into this album track by track. We're not going to actually play the songs, but I do want to talk about each one of the songs on this album. Sure. But this is the last album by Prince and the Revolution. Something because the Revolution would be disbanded right. After this album. And so I'm kind of curious what your thoughts were in regards to, well, I don't want to go beyond Parade. let's stay in this time period right now. But when this album was being created, a lot of people say that it's one of his greatest albums ever. Matter of fact, I think I have a clip from D'Angelo. Here's D'Angelo talking about this. Just for a little 40-second window.
Favorite funk album? God damn! What? No. Oh, come on, man. What? Oh shit! The one you have to have on a desert island. God damn it! When you're locked in that desert island, baby, what's the album you got to have?
Parade. Prince and the Revolution. Parade. I'm sorry. That's it. Damn! Look! I'm sorry, man. I know, but that's the one. That's the one. Parade.
Okay.
Parade.
All right. Okay. How about this?
And I find that amazing. And I don't think I really paid attention. The album, I started listening to it. I actually listened to it in headphones because I had like these special headphones that kind of break everything down in the high, mids, and lows and really kind of pulls out the details. And I don't think that a lot of people really appreciated just how much detail was put into every single one of these songs. And the song structures were so unusual and so unlike anything that had been on the radio ever. And when you're in the process, and when you're part of this process and you're watching this album kind of come to fruition,
Mhm.
is any of this really just blowing your mind as you're hearing these songs for the first time, even before the general public?
Yeah, because for the most part, I only played on a couple of those songs, and the rest of them were, mostly Prince, and then Lisa and Wendy were utilized in the studio exclusively more than any of us, and collaborated on a lot of it. And the song Mountains was really Lisa's music behind that one, the chord progression and all that. And so yeah, when I heard the stuff I didn't participate in and I had to like learn it for live stuff as a sideman, yes, I was blown away and just went, oh man, you better give me some special mixes off of the mixing board of these so I can hear all the parts, separated, brought up louder, which they would do for me. And Lisa too, because she would have to, do that as well for certain songs she may not have worked on, or maybe she did work on them, but then parts she did were buried more in the mix, and you got to really get the detail back so you can relearn them so you can remember what you did. So and Wendy, everybody, so yeah, Prince was, right before Sign of the Times as well, which is also a lot of people think is one of his greatest albums too. There's like everybody's of different schools of thought on what his greatest
Yeah,
records are, but
sure.
um, and then of course I was retained for the next 4 years to work with the new NPG, in case people out there didn't know that. But once the Revolution was disbanded, but regardless, I just there was a lot of great stuff that came after that.
Oh yeah,
But
sure.
then, some people even before, like the Purple Rain album, even some people thought 1999 was one of his greatest albums, or they think uh,
Yeah.
some of his earlier works just take it backwards. So it's crazy. And then I heard stuff after my tenure with him, like the Gold Experience, that I thought was amazing. I thought the Rainbow Children was an amazing work of art.
One of my favorites, top three.
Yeah, one of my favorites too. And I was there at Paisley Park for the album release event, and hung out with Prince and was able to pay my respects to him on that record. And so really a genius at work, he was constantly morphing from project to project throughout his entire career, and doing something new and different each time. So it you know, for me, it's subjective to what
Yeah.
is the greatest. But yes, Parade, one of the great Revolution album collaboration. I felt Purple Rain was more of a collaboration than that one was, as for the whole band as a whole. But
Yeah.
Parade was definitely really something else.
Yeah, he was you leaning on Wendy and Lisa a lot, like you said. I mean, it's always
Yeah,
been that. I mean, Lisa's always kind of been in that mix, but he leaned on Wendy and Lisa a lot. And for those that don't know, I try to obviously over explain things for the newer Prince fans, that I don't want to talk over your head. I don't want to mention something that you don't know the backstory on, like all of us hardcore Prince fans do. But what we're alluding to, what we're kind of talking about, is that this album, Parade, is done by Prince and the Revolution. And after this album was over, Prince disbanded the Revolution, kept Dr. Fink for his new iteration of the band that he would have, that would do Sign of the Times. And that's kind of where we are in the timeline. And I know what's interesting that you say that is that a lot of people give Questlove a lot of shit for saying, look, that period of Prince between 82 and 86 is just friggin' undeniable. It's just he was just on some other platform, and that is like the ultimate Prince material.
yeah,
Not that he didn't put out great music other than that, but you can see the structure and the way that he was connected to something. He was connected his whole entire life, but during this period, there was it's like the spigot was full turned on, and you could not turn him off if you wanted to.
right. And some of the material on Sign of the Times was worked on with Wendy and Lisa too, and the band,
Yep. Uncredited. Yep.
and the whole band uncredited. So it's like
Yep.
one of those things, it was, it kind of overlapped into that record.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Love Sexy was a whole nother animal, and he was collabing with
Oh,
other
sure.
people on that one,
Yeah.
and it had a different vibe, completely
He just,
different.
I think he almost wanted to prove to himself that I can change up my staff on a whim, and I'm still going to be able to generate amazing material no matter, because
Well, yeah, he
I
he.
think there was a piece to that.
I just want people, fans, to know that and they've probably heard this in other interviews. I really bugged the heck out of Prince to not disband the revolution at that moment. I begged him not to do that.
Yeah.
And he gave me the choice of staying or going at that point. He had disagreements with Wendy and Lisa, and that's why that happened.
Yeah.
So uh, it was very unfortunate. I felt he should have, mended fences and, kept going with that group.
Yeah.
Kind of like, because I felt like we were like Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. We were like of that stature at that point, and that he shouldn't have changed horses yet. But that's how it is. He was set in his ways to move
Well,
forward.
and the reality of it is, and I know we're getting away from Parade, which we're going to talk about here in a second. It's okay, folks.
All right.
We'll be there. No, but because this background story is important, because for those who have never actually heard the configuration of Dream Factory, which would have been the Revolution's next album, it was a literal if you take the songs and you actually have all the segues and everything that he had created for each one of those tracks back to back to back, the way that he had that Dream Factory thing configured, it would have been a blockbuster, just like a Sign of the Times. I feel like
absolutely.
it would have been way out there, because
yeah.
and I've actually was able to locate the actual files that have all the segues with all the songs pulled together. I actually have all that, and I've played it on the radio show before, and it's just that configuration of those songs, which a lot of people know, but they're on different albums and the way they're structured. But what's interesting is, going back to Parade, is that the original configuration of Parade back in May of 1985 was also a little bit unusual as well. It was Wendy's Parade was what Christopher Tracy's Parade was going. The song was renamed. We'll talk about that in a second. New Position, I Wonder You, Under the Cherry Moon, so far about the same. Then it went kind of sideways with Others Here With Us, Life Can Be So Nice, Velvet Kitty Cat, Sometimes It Snows in April was not going to be the closer of the album, because then it was going to be Kiss, Old Friends for Sale, and then All My Dreams. That is the extremely unusual configuration, and I have yet to put that version of Parade together, which came out, I guess, was configured a year before what we have now came, but that would have been something really unusual. I'm still trying to imagine Others Here With Us even in the ethos of all these other songs. Some of the other things I can see working, but his mind was always going, and he was very, very creative about how he felt like certain flows of songs needed to kind of come together. But man, what an interesting arrangement for sure. And of course, what we got, nobody's going to complain about. I have to ask you a question though.
Sure.
You played on, and I have it up here. You actually played on Girls and Boys, Mountains, and Another Lover Hole in Your Head. Of those three songs, which of them do you feel was probably the most, I guess, I wouldn't say necessarily difficult, because was there one that was more difficult to learn than the others?
No, not really.
Okay. So, okay.
I mean, everybody's proficiency as a musician at that point was, really at a higher level. And usually it was not, I didn't have to work too hard to get
Yeah.
it working. But please name all three of those one more time. Another Lover, Hole in Your Head,
Yeah, Girls and Boys,
Girls
and
and Boys, and what was the third one? Mountains.
Mountains. Yeah.
Mountains. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm playing Mountains now to this day. I play it with St. Paul and the Minneapolis Funk All Stars. I'm doing the piano part that Lisa wrote.
Mm.
When the Revolution did it, she would, of course, would be on piano when we reunited, and after Prince passed away. And then I was doing all the like kind of fake choir stuff and the fake horns and stuff that came in. There were real horns on it, obviously, but when we did it live, we didn't have a horn section, so I would be playing synthesized or sampled versions of the horn parts, and then and those are fairly simple, really. It's just a rhythmic thing, you know. That,
Mm.
and you're just playing that.
Right.
So it's not like a real heady jazz piece by any means, but rhythmically that piano part is very interesting, and the chord voicings are very different from a standard, what you'd say is standard pop song, because Lisa's chordal voicings and knowledge are just amazing. And so that's all I can say about that. But yeah, I can nail it.
Yeah, you probably played it hundreds of times since its inception.
Sure. And to me, Another Lover, Hole in the Head, even a little easier to play than Mountains. And then what was the third one again? I'm getting old.
Girls and Boys.
Girls and Boys. So that one is just like bop, 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 and I was like doubling that with Eric Leeds, and then some other part on my other hand. I can't remember what it is right now, but I haven't played that. We haven't played that song in years. In fact, even when the Revolution reunited, we never brought that back into the set. So
now,
yeah,
the album was given, a lot of the songs were given from Parade were given to Claire Fisher, who did a lot of orchestration for, Susanna Melvoin was the one that connected Claire Fisher with Prince. And they've never, again, for those Prince fans that have already heard the story, Claire Fisher did a lot of string orchestration on many Prince albums. But what the funny part of this is that they never, ever met each other.
Right.
So, which is highly unusual. Matter of fact, Claire even sent him his CD called 2x2, I think it was. And when Prince got it, he refused. He asked somebody to put it in because he didn't even want to look at the cover because he didn't want to risk seeing him. As a matter of fact, I had Brent Fisher, his son, on the show years ago. And he said that they were at the Grammys and Prince was already standing up on the stage, and him and his father came up. At this time, his father needed a little bit of assistance walking, and Prince was right there. And Brent was standing there with his dad and less than 10 feet away and said, "Is this the moment? How many days does my dad have left? Should I go, and he didn't do it. He kind of felt like he just didn't want to ruin that mystique and that relationship, even though I don't think Claire was doing much orchestration back in that part of his life. But
wow.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Claire?
No, but I met Brent many years later. I met him many years later. After Prince passed was the first time I met Brent, I think.
Wow.
So I don't think I'd met him before that even. So yeah. Nice. Very interesting. And I wasn't aware that Prince had never met Claire. I just naturally assumed he had met Claire back in those days.
Think. Well, he had the first thing that he had given him was the album from The Family, and it was done. Prince had said on record that it was done in such an amazing way that it was there was no denying that he was going to work with him in the future. And so he didn't want to jinx it. I guess he had this thing in his head where it's like, if I meet him and then I just don't want to jinx it. So I think that's where it was at.
Yeah. The string arrangement, I just want to say the string arrangement on Nothing Compares to You is like unbelievable.
Oh,
amazing. Anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say?
All right. Well, we're going to talk about the individual songs now. Christopher Tracy's Parade. It was originally called Wendy's Parade.
Mm-hmm.
And what's unusual about this, and you don't necessarily have to comment on the songs, obviously, that you didn't participate in. However, I assume that you have some type of commentary on it for sure. But it was originally called Wendy's Parade. And matter of fact, the original lyrics were "Everybody should come and dig Little Wendy's guitar," which happened to rhyme with the next line, which was "The chord strikes, the devil no like, so he runs to his evil car." But when he changed the lyrics to "Everybody should come and dig Christopher Tracy's piano," he did not bother to change the other line, which does not rhyme with piano. But I think that he just loved to kind of do those types of things. It's like it shouldn't work, but it does. Scenario, and I just think that's a funny notation about that. Now, he did mention Little Wendy's Parade again in, I think, the extended version of Kiss, or maybe it's not even the extended version. So there's still references throughout of Little Wendy's Parade.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this or not, but the song was given, his father, John L. Nelson, had credit on this song. And I think there's a lot of chatter about, did his father actually have any involvement in the songwriting of it? Or was this just kind of like a thing where, Prince wanted to kind of help him out financially by doing something like that? Have you ever heard the background story on that, or what the truth of that was?
No, I have no idea about that one.
Huh. Well, and the other thing too is, here's something also interesting. These first 4 songs on this album, Christopher Tracy's Parade, New Position, I Wonder You, and Under the Cherry Moon were all done. The drums were all done in one take. Not like we'll play Christopher Tracy's Parade and we'll stop, all right, take a breather or whatever. Okay, now we'll play New Position. Not in the same session. It was one take. Those drums, that drum track is literally 4 songs all together on one drum track that wasn't broken apart, not done separately. He would just get to the end of Christopher Tracy's Parade. The tempo, the meter would be going in his head, and he'd start into New Position. Then after that song was over, he would then go into I Wonder You. He did that for these first 4 album tracks. And I have to ask, first off, were you aware of that? And secondly, have you ever heard of anybody doing something like that before?
No, and no.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't there, and I didn't know he did that. Was he taking a slight break before he started the next song, or was it a continuous piece?
It was a continuous piece.
But
he was envisioning it on the album.
Was he tracking it without having any bass or other instrumentation around it at that time?
Correct.
Yeah, he would do, but I'm not surprised. But that's the first I've heard this story, and he had the amazing ability to hear the song arrangement in his head while he was playing the parts, but kind of like Mozart walking around the billiard table and writing down notes to a symphony that he could hear, and sort of he'd be think humming a little bit, and then be out like moving balls around the table, and then he'd be writing on his staff paper and just writing all the individual orchestral parts out as he went along, like having perfect pitch and knowing exactly, like when you see that scene in the Mozart movie where he does that. Mm-hmm. And hey, by the way, for anybody who's interested, they're doing a full-on Mozart show on HBO, which is a series. It's gonna delve into Mozart's life even into more detail than what the movie did back in the day.
Wow.
So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
He was a little bit nutcase.
Yeah, and when I was 12, well, he's a genius. Look, right, they had no TV, no internet, nothing. This guy was a slave to the piano that his father made him practice at a young age and learn piano. He wrote what's called the 12 Variations of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when he was 12 years old. And it went from the simplest deep, and by the time it gets to the end, it's this incredible, crazy, 2 hands flying all over the place, wild version of that. And when I was 12 for my piano recital, I think I played like 6 of the 12 for the and I think I played the difficult one too in there, the last
Wow.
one. But it was a crazy. So that's how I was trained too on that stuff when I was young. So regardless, the guy was a genius. He wrote that stuff, much
Unbelievable.
like Prince, and he could hear that in his head and just do it. I mean, it is astounding when you think about it. So I mean, the human brain, in my opinion, is just a conduit to the universe. We're just
Oh yeah.
we're a receptor. We're like a big radio receptor to
Yeah, but he
the
had
music.
he had a direct HDMI cable.
Yes,
It was like just pumping direct. He
Prince
wasn't on
did too.
Wi-Fi. he was directly connected for sure.
Yeah, as
And
long,
just so you know, I know that people are commenting that they could see that screen. I'm okay with you guys seeing this screen. What this screen is a website called Fader, FADR. So
oh
you can
sure,
actually upload songs and you can actually stem it. And what
yeah,
I always found interesting is that sometimes breaking down the individual pieces to kind of hear some of the things that are going on in the background is just is incredible to me. Like for instance, with Christopher Tracy's Parade, I think one of the more interesting components of it is definitely the drums, because it has some forward drums, but then every other beat is backmasked in some way. Let's take a listen. It's like the cymbals are backmasked, or like it's so difficult to identify exactly which part of it is, but you can hear that gate, that backwards gate that's pulling on that sound. And to know that is a lot of those effects and things that he would add in. I am curious to hear what a straight drum track would sound for this without all the extra effects. But I mean, it's pretty significant sound. It's very, very cool to hear.
Yeah.
How he was able to kind of pull this stuff together in his head. Claire Fisher orchestration on this, very Beatlesque feeling. A lot of strange references in here. I don't know if a lot of people ever really paid attention to some of the lyrics in these songs, but one of the lyrics is, "The show will proceed unless it should rain strawberry lemonade. Hopefully that will not occur. The man above has been paid." I guess it insinuates that God has been paid for it not to rain strawberry. So I don't know. It's lyrics like that kind of, I guess that's where the Beatlesque part comes from. I feel.
Lisa and Wendy were influencing him from the 60s psychedelic era that they grew up in with their parents, who were part of that music scene as musicians.
And
Prince was David, and David, obviously David, So I forgot about him for a second. So so they were bringing the Los Angeles, Hollywood psychedelic era into Prince's influential. They were influencing him from that time period, and Prince really got into that. At that time. And Prince was, as far as I know, Prince never did psychedelics, but the record was highly psychedelic for whatever reason. So he was just able to tap into that without having to take LSD or any other hallucinogen.
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of been debated. I mean, there's always the story was verified. Well, not verified, but I guess they all agree during that Love Sexy era, between the Black Album and Love Sexy, with Ingrid Chavez and that whole scenario, that there was suspicions that he dabbled, and when he dabbled, he didn't like it. But I've heard lots of individual stories, but we want to get into rumor and conjecture or any rhetoric. But that he was able to connect, because I know a lot of bands that, some of their greatest music is when they're under the influence of necessarily psychedelics or, unfortunately, heroin. And I mean, when you think of all the legends like Billie Holiday and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison of the Doors, it's like they had to have this part of their brain switched off with drugs in order to kind of, let down the roadblock and just this creativity to keep flowing.
Mhm.
And for somebody like Prince to be able to tap into that without having to without having to do drugs, that's a drug in itself. God bless him, man. I'm glad that we were able to witness all of it because wow, just
And yeah, and I know he definitely listened to the Beatles in the 60s. But they weren't his favorite band back in those days. He was really more of
oh
a
yeah,
James Brown guy
Joni
and
Mitchell too, which
growing
is
up,
like
and
the
Joni
weird.
Mitchell, people like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
where I was heavily influenced by the Beatles growing up.
Oh yeah, same. The Beatles and Moody Blues.
Moody
Um,
Blues, all that.
yeah,
Pink Floyd,
that's
everything.
sure, absolutely.
Zeppelin, all those, the British invasion groups and all that stuff. And and I don't know if anybody out there knows this about me, but I did an album that was all Beatles stuff called Hooked on Beatles for the K-Tel label here in Minneapolis that came out
Like
in
the original 70s K-Tel.
yes.
That's
They
where
had
okay.
this was 1990. This was put out in 1991. Oh, look out, my cat's tail just came in. So, no. Here's the thing. I was tapped by Owen Husney, Prince's first manager, who was the head of that label for several years in the early '90s. And right after I left Prince at the end of 1990, he said, "Hey, how would you like to do this Hooked on Beatles record and do Prince or Beatles medleys?" So I said, "Yeah, that sounds really fun and challenging." And I did that record. And you can go hear that on Spotify. It's called Hooked on Beatles, featuring Dr. Fink and the Mystery Band. And people probably aren't even aware that I did this.
What was that year again?
It came out in 1991, early 92. I did the album all throughout 1991.
And K-Tel still exists? I thought K-Tel went away in like the early
Well,
80s.
no, it K-Tel exists as far as its catalog. I don't think they're putting out any new music right now, but I
Yeah,
became a staff producer for them right after Prince, and I did all these
really.
for 5 years. I did all these weird records for them.
Yeah, I think the
Weird,
now
weird.
that's what I call music. I feel like they picked
Yeah.
up where K-Tel dropped and was like, all right, we're gonna do this. We'll do the
So,
compilation thing.
so
Yeah.
hooked on a Beatles tribute. Look it up on Spotify
There you go.
and or Apple. It's on there, and I produced that whole thing, played and programmed all of it.
So
With a singer. I had a singer that sounded like a cross between Lennon and McCartney on that record.
oh nice.
And I sang harmonies with him.
Well,
So,
yeah, I don't
check
hear
it
a lot
out.
of people that have that kind of tone, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Well,
He's really good.
Christopher Tracy's Parade. That
Yeah,
featured.
sorry, I digressed.
No, that's fine because everybody here that's a Funkatopian knows I go down rabbit holes, and I'm normally the one that's
Okay.
responsible for taking people down there.
Okay.
So I'm sure if we re-listen back to this, it was my fault that we went.
Okay.
That way.
Sure.
I'm sure it was. But Christopher Tracy's Parade, it featured Prince on all vocals and instruments, Wendy and Lisa on background vocals, and also Susanna Melvoin on background vocals as well. Which brings us to New Position, the second song on this, part of this 4-song set, that drum track thing.
Mm-hmm.
New Position is an insane song to me, by the way, because it does this weird. It's first off, the fact that, as we just learned, that these 4 songs were done as one long drum track is insane to me because of the style pattern that you're coming off of Christopher Tracy's Parade into this song, which does not stay. It does not say the same tempo. It actually stops and drags a little bit and then comes back in. And I find it insanely, it's just unusual. It's very, very unusual to kind of have a song that does this kind of timing. And he was just always pushing the bar. Matter of fact, I think I might be able to play a little clip of this with Claire Fisher's strings, which were removed. Claire Fisher's strings were removed from this song, but we happen to have, of course, we're here. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Parade. I think I'm pretty sure I do. Let's take a listen to New Position with Claire Fisher's orchestration on it, which I can hear in my head, probably because I've heard this so many times. But now I'm about to create an earworm for you. You're welcome.
A shot of new spunk. Honey, it's your pace. You got to try my new funk. You got to try a new position. Yeah, something that'll make it alright. Oh, a new position. Yeah.
You get the idea. You get the idea. It's pretty have you heard that before?
No.
I'm just dropping bombs on you all night. I'm sorry.
First of all, I want to know where you're getting this stuff. How are you getting that? Prince would not be happy.
Oh no, he said it was okay to share.
Okay. All right, good.
Share, but bootlegging's the problem. Him and I actually had a discussion on Twitter about this. He was like, it's okay to let friends hear, but when you start bootlegging or selling stuff, then we got a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But this is widely available on YouTube right now. If you go YouTube,
no kidding.
If you go to YouTube and look for Prince New Position full orchestration or Claire Fisher, it's there. It's there for the taking. And it's pretty amazing. I didn't want to sit here and play the whole entire song, but amazing.
Yeah, I mean, very cool. Very cool. I like that. I like it better than the original.
Yeah, I do too.
Listening to it.
Like when they played the Ballad of Dorothy Parker with Eric Leeds sax parts in it, I didn't like it at first, but then after I listened to it for years, it was like, okay. I just got so used to hearing ballad. That's obviously talking Sign of the Times, but I just got so used to hearing that song without that added piece. This just adds an entirely another level to it. And actually, he used snippets of that. Some of the pieces that you were actually hearing in Rave Unto the Joy Fantastic. I saw a lot of people were talking about the steel pan that's on this. But there's just it's that David Coleman influence that started with Around the World in the Day with all these kind of exotic instruments like the steel pan. We're about to go to Girls and Boys with the hand cymbals. Just all of that stuff. This is just one of these songs. It's just, it just has a whole new life to it. A lot of people want to know what it means. It's obviously sexual, but he doesn't do much innuendo other than let's go fishing in the river of life. I'm trying to run through the lyrics. Shot a new spunk. I think that's it. As far as the lyrics are concerned, that kind of leads you to understand that it's definitely sexual, but there is another song called New Position that he actually wrote for Vanity 6 back in the day, but the two have nothing to do with each other. And no, I heard that story, but no, I have not heard that song, that other New Position song, but you can obviously read about it on Prince Vault. But as far as that song was concerned, New Position, it's just Prince on vocals, obviously doing all the instrumentation, and Wendy and Lisa doing background vocals. And so there's that. Now, that takes us into probably one of my favorite songs, I Wonder You. Very short song, 1:40. Did you used to make mixtapes? Did you make mixtapes?
Sometimes, yeah.
Back in the day, when making a mixtape was a science, you always wanted to make sure that you used as much space as you possibly could. So when it got to the end of the cassette tape, it would flip around and you wouldn't have like this long bit of silence at the end. I Wonder You was at the end of a lot of my mixtapes just because I couldn't find many songs that were a minute 40 or in that window to kind of take up some of that time. But I guess from the look on your face, I'm assuming that you were not that type of individual. You just made a tape, and if it was over, you flipped it, basically. All right.
Usually.
Okay. I know I'm not alone. I swear to God, there's got to be somebody in this chat room that has got my back. I swear to God. Anyways, I Wonder You, one of my favorite tracks. I have like 3 different versions of this song. I'm not going to play any of them of varying lengths, but I did actually hear, I think, matter of fact, Rodney, what's going on, brother? I see you out there. I think I heard that there is a 7-minute version of this song. I've not heard it. I would love to. And for those that don't know about where this came from, the song title actually came from, the story goes that there was this huge fan that came and got an opportunity to meet Prince and was very, very flustered, but English was not their first language. And she came up to Prince and was stammering, how you say, I wonder you. And Prince, being Prince, already had the song written 5 minutes later, I would guess. But that story has actually been verified by, I want to say it was Lisa or Wendy. I think I heard him on an interview retell that story. So I just think that's I always wondered if that fan, after hearing that story, if they're still out there, remembers that moment, is like, that was me. I wondered him.
Oh, funny. That's good.
But anyways, it is the first song. I Wonder You is the first song ever where Prince is not singing the solo lead vocal. So on an official Prince album. Now there was, when Purple Rain Deluxe came out, Our Destiny featured, I think, Jill Jones, Wendy, and Lisa, or Jill Jones and Lisa. I think Wendy was in that mix as well. But Our Destiny hadn't been released when Parade came out. That didn't come out until 2017. But again, this is the first song ever on a Prince album where Prince was not on the lead vocals. I mean, his vocals were on it, but he decided to completely pull them out. And he also added a lot of sound effects like people laughing and whatnot. Actually, you know what? I did actually have something that actually had a little bit of, let me see if I can pull this up. Maybe I do. Maybe I will go ahead and break a little bit of rules. Hold on a second. Let's take a listen to this. This is with Prince's vocals and the orchestration. Hold on. Yeah, so that's a little sample of that as well. That's Prince and Wendy, but he took out the orchestration minus the flute family of horns or whatever, and then removed himself completely, which was very surprising decision. I mean, he had to have understood the nuance of this being the first song where he was not on it vocally. I mean, wouldn't you imagine that would have, he had to have crossed his mind at some point, because he had to make a conscious decision to take his vocals out, his vocals, Prince's album, his vocals. I think there's some significance to that, in my opinion, I think.
Yeah.
But again, that's Wendy on lead vocals, Prince on all instruments, and Lisa's also on that background as well. Which brings me to, obviously, the title track, the last of these 4 songs that he played this one solid drum track on, which was Under the Cherry Moon. And what are your thoughts about Under the Cherry Moon? I mean, as far as the sound, where his influences probably came from in writing that song. I'm just, and there's a reason why I asked that, but I'm curious how other people hear that song. Like when you hear it, you know, what type of influences do you think that he was affected by when he recorded this?
You know, I don't know because it was so different. I just don't, I wasn't really, he never talked about that kind of stuff with me, like what his influences were or where I thought his influence. That's a tough question for me. I don't know if I can answer that one.
Yeah, because I think one of the reason why I asked primarily is because it sounds like it was plucked from, like if you had never heard this song before, I'll just do a little bit of a taste. I'm going to bounce around so we don't get my copyright, but. If you had never heard this song, and let's say you've never heard this song, and you were asked to identify what era is this from, what would your guess be? 70s maybe? Where would you? Because it just doesn't sound. It just sounds like it's in its own time. I don't. It
doesn't sound like anything that I've ever heard before. That's the thing, is
right.
And most of the stuff he did from that time period was so innovative and different from anything he'd done before. So I can't, you know, it just came out of the ether, as it is, you know, whatever he did with it. I mean, you could say it's maybe something.
It
Boy,
does almost
1930s, maybe the 1930s or
exactly.
something. There's some influence.
Yeah.
Art. It reminds me of an Art Deco piece of some kind, you know, that would have been written like something that could have been Gershwin-esque almost, but a
Right.
ballad,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. Right.
Maybe there, you know. So
It's so strange. Now, again, this is yet another song that he gave credit to his father, John L. Nelson. And again, it's debated whether or not he actually had any involvement in it, because a lot of people, especially when it's specifically piano, because that was John's specialty and he was really great at it. And so it doesn't surprise me if maybe he actually did write a portion of this or certain chord structures or whatever. That this song wouldn't surprise me. Christopher Tracy's Parade does, but this song doesn't, because of that era, that time, that feeling, that vibe that you get from whatever era that this song sounds like it was.
Yeah, I definitely could see the influence of John on that. Yeah, I was thinking that actually in my head, but I didn't say that. So
yeah, but even
I
though it
agree
got
with you
credit,
on that.
it's still only Prince on explain on all vocals and instruments, and then there's that. And of course, you come out of that song and then you go into Girls and Boys. Girls and Boys is another one of these tracks. It's just, I mean, the second that you hear that song start to go in your head, a lot of Prince fans will automatically stand up and start doing that line dance, that choreograph. But what's the most notorious about this is that it follows the legendary Rekisto scene. Everybody knows the Rekisto scene, but this song came right after this.
To knowledge.
To knowledge. Knowledge. What do you know from knowledge? You ever been to Miami, baby? I have. Garçon! You forgot one.
There's nothing in Miami but people who weren't born there and drugs.
Yeah, and they know more than you'll ever learn in your little small sheltered world. Yeah!
Really now? What only God knows.
Garçon! Yes, sir. Avez-vous un crayon?
Certainement.
That's French. I understand. It's obvious little Miss Mary has never been off the city block.
on earth is that? Some new language?
Read it.
You know what it is?
It's nothing, you Lillian. You know it, but you won't confess it because you're such a coward.
It is something. Something you don't know, and you won't confess that because you're a coward.
This is silly, and you're a child.
I go to dinner without my father's permission. That says what? Now read it aloud so we can all hear how knowledgeable you are.
Wrecker stove.
You know what it is? You don't, do you?
Wrecker stove, it's nothing.
It is something. Come on, read it again. This time, say it louder.
Wrecker stove.
Louder!
Wrecker stove! I give up. What is it?
Wait. If you wanted to buy a Sam Cooke, Abby, where would you go?
The wrecker stove.
Makes me laugh every time. I'm sorry, it just does. It's such an iconic scene. And then, of course, after this, they kind of go into Girls and Boys, which we should be talking about. But it's kind of hard to say the Rekisto scene without being able to gather together with all of us Prince fans here and be able to relive that moment. Yeah, we could watch that 100 times. Matter of fact, the Rekisto story, for those that don't know, is a real story, by the way. He actually did that. He used to do that to St. Paul Peterson. He would do that with a lot of things. And Paul told that story on the show. A lot of hooks and earworms in this song. It's another Claire Fisher arrangement that he didn't keep. But again, so many hooks compacted into one song. But before we go there, apologies. We had another special guest that was supposed to be coming in tonight, but they're still probably going to try, but unfortunately they may not be able to make it. And that person was going to be Jerome Benton. And so hopefully Jerome, maybe he might have 5 minutes somewhere to be able to stop in and at least say hello, but he had something come up. So we're going to work through that for right now. It's okay. You got Dr. Fink here. We're good. We're fine. But what is your take on this song? Because again, in my opinion, I feel like between Eric Leeds' sax hook, that ba-da-ba-da, and the chorus of Los Entre Belle, Mama, Girls and Boys, which means you are beautiful. And you take the hand symbol thing out, ching, if you take that out, I think it totally changes the entire face of the song. It's like the song was literally tied together with hooks. Well, what's your take on this track?
Yeah, it's like it's just a really funky Prince track, which is influenced by, I think, the James Brown era, and but new. And the one really weird, yeah. There's this one part in the song, that really high, like weird nasally tone.
Yeah,
that's actually the first Roland guitar synthesizer that was used on that track. So you actually got it was actually this Roland made this guitar that was connected to a synthesizer rack mount engine that was designed just for that guitar to trigger these weird sounds that were synthesizer, and they weren't guitar, but when you play the strings like a regular guitar, it would created that sound, and that's what that weird nasally high part is. And nobody knew that. It's like, what the hell? What is that? A horn? Is that like a reed? It sounds like a really high, whiny reed, almost Middle Eastern reed instrument of some kind. So, but that's what created that sound. It was very unique and different and innovative for that time.
Oh, absolutely. It was staggering. There was actually,
but go ahead.
amazing. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is a part. Hold on, let me see if I can share this, because there's another part here that probably we should draw attention to, which is nope, that's the end. Let me see if I can find this particular part. Obviously, the part we're referring to is is Marie's part. Let me see here. See if we can find it.
Or we can stay in touch.
This part right here, sorry.
Sexe et repos, mais ne résistez pas. Vous savez que vous aimerez ça. Baby, oh, oh. Je vous enlacerai avec mes jambes, baby. Pendant des heures, je veux vous étonner, baby. Fleurs dans votre bain, amour dans vos draps. Faire l'amour, nous nous rencontrerons.
And first off, what an unusual little component to that song. But for those that don't know what she's saying, first off, Marie France, if you don't know who she is actually a fine arts person. She actually was designing costumes for Prince in Purple Rain, Under the Cherry Moon. So they had already had a relationship already, because she's worked with Don Henley and Tina Turner and Rod Stewart, and like a bunch of like legendary people. So that is Marie France. You can probably look her up on IMDb and get some additional information. But what she is saying there in that little segment is, you were on the other end of the room hall. You were dancing so hard, I could smell your perfume, which it's almost aligning with the lyrics that Prince is singing. I could smell your perfume. Your smile told me we should talk sex and rest, baby. I know you'll like that. You won't resist it, baby. I'll wrap my legs around you, baby. During hours, I'll astound you, baby. Make love, we'll meet. So there you go. That's kind of gives you a little bit of for those that don't know French, and it was probably really horrible. Because
Well, it's all good. I studied a little French when I was in high school.
so how close is that when you're listening to it?
I can't
Pretty-
remember.
I knew that was coming. I don't even know why. But I don't know. You tell me.
But I will tell you, when we were touring Europe and doing all that stuff, I made a point of learning enough again and remembering so I could order in French right off of a restaurant menu. Or if I was in Germany, same thing, or Italy. I got to know the language enough, and I had a translator, like an early weird like little calculator thing that could translate words, and I managed to learn a little more so that I could at least do a little bit of each country's language. So that was always fun.
They have Bluetooth earpieces now that can do that, which is
I saw that the other day, that your Apple earbuds will translate for you now. It's crazy. But anyway, that song, again, I love that song from that record. Very innovative and unique and new sounding.
And Eric Leeds that's actually the first Prince song that Eric Leeds performed on. He was on the Family album, but I'm talking about Prince albums. That was actually the first Prince track that introduced Eric. Now that song that we're talking about here, which is Girls and Boys, is a full band scenario. You've got Prince on vocals and instruments, and obviously there's people that are going back and forth, but obviously Lisa on keyboards, Wendy on guitar, Bobby Z on drums, Brown Mark on bass, yourself on keyboards, background vocals obviously by Susanna, Wendy, and Lisa. Eric Leeds on horns. Sheila E is also on background vocals, and then of course Marie France that we just talked about doing that French spoken word, and I think it was denoted as French seduction was her contribution to the song, which I guess is pretty accurate. So yeah, that song was pretty awesome. I'm glad that you got to participate in that one, because that's legendary. I mean, when that song comes on the radio, everybody gets up their seat and goes and does their thing, man. Because it's
and the video is cool on that one too. But anyway, go ahead.
Do you know the dance?
Kind of. Yeah.
I don't. That's the reason why.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. It's been 40 effing years. You know what I mean?
Which brings us to the next song.
Only so much I can do.
Life Can Be So Nice is the next song, and technically it's Life Can Be So Nice because the song is actually singing about the city of Nice in France. But because it's the way it's spelled, the song was just kind of iterated to be Life Can Be So Nice. Yet again, another Claire Fisher orchestration across this whole song. But Prince dropped the orchestration. You guys want to hear it? I don't have it.
Sure.
I don't have it. Just imagine it in your head. Just imagine the song.
Yeah.
And of course, add
Life
the,
can be so nice. Okay.
Wonderful world. And Sheila E. is on cowbell on this track.
More cowbell.
Yeah, I was right. It's cowbell. And actually, this
more,
is actually
more cowbell.
we need more. We need more of it.
Go ahead.
Matter of fact, this is actually playing when he's riding around in the car, kind of jamming on the radio and whatever, and kind of feeling himself. And then he spots Marie Claire, and kind of gets himself together with his hair and to make sure he's all coiffed and whatnot. But yeah, that's the scene of the movie where we are at this point. But the bridge to this song, I want to talk about the bridge to this song because this goes back to the lyrical content of some of this stuff that is like, what is happening here? Because even if you sit and intentionally or purposefully try to dissect the way that he stacks vocals, let me just give you a little bit of a taste of this. This is a 15-second clip from Life Can Be So Nice. And it's part of the bridge where the girls are singing, girls being Wendy and Lisa are singing one thing, and Prince is singing something else, and it's kind of interweaving. And I put the lyrics up for you so that you can kind of follow along. It does bounce for one moment, but just enjoy this. Okay. So if you read those lyrics, like, I think we've all just kind of passively listened to that portion of the song. I know I have, because when I finally sat down and read the actual official lyrics, I was like, that's what's being said. I said, I have to create a 15-second video because I certainly can't be down suffering in this rabbit hole alone. So hopefully I brought a few of you down with me. Did you know that that's what was being said during those lyrics? Is this another?
Well, back in the day, yeah. It's been a minute since I saw that, but yes.
It's crazy.
I was privy to all of that, yes.
Man, it's just unbelievable. And of course, the other cool thing about this song is how it ends with "Life Can Be So Nice, So Nice." That is actually just, I think that's another genius move, in my opinion, is just to kind of cut it like something went wrong. But what's ingenious about it is the way that it stops on a dime and then flows into Venus de Milo, which you're being taken along this ride with Life Can Be So Nice. It's like a car rolling down a hill. And then all of a sudden it just comes to this abrupt stop in the form of Venus de Milo, which I think is breathtaking because it really kind of creates this vibe where, all right, slow down. Let's rest for a moment. You have been alongside Prince for many, 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 many years. And Venus de Milo, from what I've heard, has been around for years, I guess, is like an untitled piano piece that he wouldn't like play the song in its entirety, but he was using components of it quite a bit during his little solo piano segments that he would do in some of the earlier years, some of the earlier 80s. Do you remember that? Do you recall the pieces of Venus de Milo kind of filtering in to the show?
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you ever ask him like what it was? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't. I just, it was just one of those things he had kind of kicking around, in the background for sure. So when it ended up on the record, I definitely knew that he had toyed with it in the past.
Was there other songs that were like that where you'd been kind of hearing pieces or little him tinkering with something maybe during a live session or soundstage or whatever, and then all of a sudden many years later it pops up on the album and you're like, oh shit, that was I remember
Yes, Strange Relationship went back
really
pretty far. Yeah, that song.
Wow, very cool. Well, the only other story I have about Venus de Milo is that apparently during the recording of Purple Rain, Apollonia was having major issues with not being able to fall asleep. She was having really bad issues, just not being able to get any rest. And Prince actually created a cassette that had a bunch of these types of songs on it that included Venus de Milo for whatever structure he had of that song at that period, Father's Song, and some others very similar to that, and actually put it on cassette, drove it out to her house, and brought it to her so that she would have something to listen to help her lull her to sleep, which I thought was it's pretty sweet, I would say. The only instrumental song to ever appear on a Prince album with no vocals up to this point. So I didn't know if you were aware of that distinction as well. And it is the second shortest song on the album, only to I Wonder You. And now we get to talk about Mountains, and another song that you were involved with. What do you remember about what is the most vivid memory that you have about Mountains? Is it the song itself, the construction of the song itself, or the video? What stands out the most?
Yeah, primarily shooting that video at the end of credits rolling from Under the Cherry Moon. Prior to that, he, even though he credited everybody in that on that, it really was a Prince and Lisa and Wendy recording primarily. And I mean, obviously, Eric Leeds was on that at the end, on doing some horns, and then that whole end section where it goes into that just a lot of very different changes that you'd never heard before that are just really different.
Yeah.
So I think that was Eric's contribution to the song,
also
was that
Atlanta
end
Bliss
section.
too. Yeah, Atlanta Bliss was also.
But I don't think Atlanta wrote the parts. I think
no. Yeah.
Eric wrote those for him to play. So it was new to me when I heard it, to work on it. So when it was finished, the recording was finished, that was it. And
such a great tune.
Great tune. Lisa came up with the main keyboard riff, and then Prince built the song around that. Dun, 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 those chords. That's all Lisa.
Man, and you guys, I mean, every single time I've seen you guys play this song live, or I mean, even beyond the Revolution, it's just the song just continues to take on a new life, just because he kind of adds these more bouncy structures to it, and it's undeniable, such an undeniable track. And so
it's a cool song, and when it gets to the end and you hear that, all of a sudden it just changes into this thing, and this cascading thing that happens in the end. Yeah, that whole end section is wild. The chord changes are just really very unique. Not something I mean, it really, it's not anything you've heard before, that's for sure.
I would hope that even if you're a Prince fan who has listened to this album like 100 times, spend some time with it today on the 40th anniversary of this album and put on some headphones. Don't listen to it in the regular stereo system. Your car is okay, but listen to through some really good headphones. You will be like mind blown the amount of stuff that's going on in a lot of these songs. I hear stuff that I've listened to this album for decades, and I still hear things. Like, for instance, what was the song I was just listening to earlier? Was it it was Kiss, matter of fact. And the extended version of Kiss, if you stem out the vocals towards the end of the song, there's some type of backmasking or something that he's saying really lightly in the background. I can't make it out because Fader doesn't really do a really clean job at some of the stem stuff that they do. But I'm just like, I don't, there's so much stuff going on here that he had hidden, and not even intentionally hidden, but just layered enough that your subconscious is picking up on things. And it's just, it was just,
Well, the thing is he layered all these nuancy little things, details all over. I mean, recreating that whole album live was not an easy task. You really couldn't achieve perfection because of the way, it's it's such a heavy studio album. So you get the main parts, you get those going, and so if you can fit in the more subtle stuff in there, if you're able to, you do it. But a lot of times you can't get everything. Do you know how Kiss, right? The main riff, that rhythm part, do you know how that was created?
I don't know that I know the details of this. No.
So the hi-hat is playing a rhythm, right? It's doing the same kind of rhythm that you hear. And so there's a gate on an acoustic guitar, and the gate opens up and lets the acoustic guitar part through every time the hi-hat hits. So in other words, you hit the strum on the one, ching, and then the hi-hat's playing the thing, and it's just on the one every time. Right? And so that's ringing, but the hi-hat is letting that part come through, and it's very staccato. So it's and it's kind of like fading out too. It's like fading out at the end. And this was a David Rivkin studio trick.
That's
David Z. And David used that. There was this gated. There was actually a gate unit in the studio in those days, made by a company called Keypex. I don't know if you're familiar with Keypex gates. So yeah, that's how that was achieved. And trying to recreate that. What? I'm sorry.
What were some other songs that David may have used that on? You said it was a trick that he did. Was it just something that he did on some previous work?
He did it on some other previous, and then later work he used it. I can't remember all the songs. He did a few more using that technique. But regardless of that, recreating it live was virtually impossible because we didn't try to do it. You would have had to have someone on the acoustic guitar hitting the strum and having the keypex and Bobby playing that exact part live, whatever that rhythm is. It's very complex and tricky. So I had to listen to it and find a sound that kind of emulated it and play it on the keyboard. So I was going
like a little fuzz type of.
No, it's just like something that tried to match that acoustic sound, whatever it was, coming through and playing the rhythm in place of it. So I had to go.
And nobody noticed because it was so. I mean, you got it so close.
But I could never. I mean, I'd listen to it and try to get the exact thing in the exact sequence of what it was doing, and even then, it kept morphing, and I couldn't really attain the identical thing. But it worked enough to where live we pulled it off. But I will. But wait. I got another little story. So fast forward to 2007-ish, and I was working as a producer for another gentleman out of Germany, who was managing me and a few other producers. And this is when American Idol was pretty big in its heyday, and the Idol shows were all over the world, in Europe and everywhere. So they had German Idol going at this time, and they came to me and said, "Can you recreate German Idol winner was going to do an album?" And they said, "Can you recreate Kiss, the backing track for the German Idol winner to sing? And we want it to sound like the original as close as you can make it." So I literally recreated it using that trick in the studio. Oh, I lost you. I can't hear you. You're
Why
muted.
couldn't I'm sorry about that. Why couldn't they have you just use the original
I don't know. They
Real?
didn't have the wherewithal to try to ask Prince or
Well,
his
yeah, and
people
to check, right?
to give
So,
him the original tracks. I don't know why, but I mean, if you're doing a cover like that, they
yeah.
just whatever and then what's interesting is later on I used that same track again and had another singer do a version of it, but not sing it in falsetto, sing it in just chest voice. And that's unreleased. It's sitting in my vault right now as a version of Kiss with that on it too.
Sorry, I'm just I'm putting up some various images from Under the Cherry
Yeah,
Moon.
yeah.
This is this is actually a GIF, but luckily it's not doing it. It's gonna the gift would be a little bit much,
Well,
but
the women out there are swooning all over again.
yeah, of course.
From
Yeah,
he's such a uh, I don't know, what a unique, beautiful man,
yeah. Well,
you know.
well, this is actually the perfect frame for kiss, because I think that's where it happens, where they actually kiss in the car. But
Yeah.
before we do kiss, we already kind of did kiss a little bit. But before we do that, we don't want to. For you purists out there, I realize we jumped over "Do You Lie," and there's something that we got to talk about on "Do You Lie," which is the weirdness of the little girl at the beginning. Let me know if you guys can hear this.
Les enfants qui mentent ne vont pas au paradis.
You guys can hear that, okay? For those that don't know or not purists or don't listen to this album on a regular basis, the song is called "Do You Lie." It's another one of those weird songs that if you never heard it before and you were asked to place it in an era, it would be in that same type of 30s, 40s type of, it just has that feel to it. But it starts out with this little girl saying,
Les enfants qui mentent ne vont pas au paradis.
which is French for children who lie do not go to paradise. And then it's followed by, if you listen really closely, it's followed by somebody going, okay, which is probably my exact reaction if a little girl came up to me and said, children who lie do not go to paradise. I think I would probably look at that. I was like, what a weird little girl. He's probably like going home to his wife and going, you wouldn't believe what this little girl said to me today. It's a weirdo. But I think that's yet another thing about Prince, is that he would always do these weird little things that were just kind of weird and quirky enough to make you smile and just kind of, I don't know. It's just one of these weird little songs. But again, what a great track, Do You Lie? Because it's like he was in touch. I kind of feel like he was in touch with I don't know, something from the 30s and 40s, something from that era. Once again, I mean, like, what's the for those who are not familiar, we might be able to play like a little piece of this.
Well, yeah, well, when you think about the movie, sorry.
When I'm in a sad and lonely mood.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Oh,
It's
that's
great
definitely right out of a Busby Berkeley film or something.
right. Exactly.
So yeah, no, the whole movie, of course, it's in black and white, and the costuming, and you look at that scene, the record store scene, and how they're dressed and how she's dressed. It's right out of that era.
Man,
So
so amazing.
that was his intention, obviously, was to
So
bring
yeah,
that.
so I wanted to make sure that we did talk about "Do You Lie." We'll go ahead and move on to Kiss, because we only have two more songs after that. So with Kiss, thank you for sharing that tidbit of information about how they were able to get that sound with the gate. That is crazy
Sure.
to learn.
Yeah.
For again, to over explain for people who are new to the show and don't know all the stories that we've heard 1,000 times, there is the story component about this song and Brown Mark's band Maserati. And I'm not going to over explain it. He's already told the story 100 times. You can find it on there. But the short, condensed Reader's Digest version of this was that Prince had started out the song, was kind of a little bit country, not slow. It was a little bit slower a track. It wasn't fast like it is now. And he just kind of gave it to Maserati to use for whatever they wanted to use it for. And when Mark heard it, he really didn't think it was Maserati style. So they sped it up. They added a bunch of stuff. They kind of added a different melody line to it. And they also, including doing background vocals and everything. And then Prince came in after they had done that and heard what they did. And it's like, oh, wow, I really like this. Let me tinker with this a little bit. And then they went out to dinner and a movie or whatever, and they came back. And when they came back, Prince had removed pretty much all of the lead vocals out of it, replaced them with his own vocals, dropped a bunch of different things, but kind of kept the background vocals from Maserati in place. Matter of fact, he even calls them out in the extended version of the song. He actually calls them out, Maserati, and then they sing background. I'm curious. And of course, there was that created a lot of bad blood between Mark and Prince at that time, because this ended up being Prince's biggest selling song ever. And a lot of people feel, and I kind of do as well, that Mark should have gotten some type of writing credit on it, because just even with the restructuring of the song and kind of giving it the life that he kind of gave it. But a lot of people say, he was a hired hand. So, what you have is what you have. But that song was given to them and then taken back. Were you aware of all this stuff going on in the I guess the history of the song with Maserati and Prince and all that?
Well, back when they did all that with it in that time frame, no. It was many years later that the people involved in tracking that song from Maserati with Mark brought that story up to me. Because I worked with Tony Christian for a little while in the mid 2000s with another artist that we co-produced together. And at that time, Tony revealed to me that he and Marv Gunn, keyboard player at the time, I think it was with Maserati, the two of them produced those background harmonies on the track that Prince ended up using. And Prince went to them and said, hey, you guys did a great job on this. Here's a big chunk of money to, for your session work and all that. And it was very generous, but he didn't offer them writing credit or producer points for that. Mark did a production version of it, obviously, for Maserati. He took what Prince gave him, which was a rough demo of the song with just guitar and vocal and maybe, I don't know what elements were there. And then they worked with David Rivkin on that, and that was the Maserati version, which I've heard and also had bass guitar on it, right? And then Prince took it back, removed the bass guitar a la When Doves Cry, which had no bass, and really stripped it down to what you heard on the final version. And then that's when David put his gated guitar trick on there, because it wasn't on the version with Mark Brown. So there were two produced versions of this at the time. So Prince took it back, made it his own, and then didn't think it was necessary to give Mark a production point on there or whatever. But then he gave David Rivkin some producer points, which are usually like a nickel per song, per album you get from that or whatever, a point or two for producing the song. So they felt slighted that because they had done their version, but then it was taken away, and they still kept that background vocal part, and then giving David producer credit on it. They felt slighted by that. So there's resentment about that between both of those, between Mark Brown and Tony Christian and Marv Gunn. To this day, they've complained to me about this, and I said, guys, it's a fine line for that, I understand how you feel, but you got paid a really generous session fee for what you did. I mean, really generous, way more money than normally Prince would pay anybody. And Mark, though, didn't see any monetary income from that record, so that's why he feels slighted. And that's all I can say about it.
In the writing part of it, right? Because he didn't actually sing. The only people that sang from Maserati. On it was Tony Christian, Craig
Marv.
Streamer Powell.
Oh, well,
Jerome.
Craig did not, those guys didn't end up on the background harmonies as far as I know. Unless
Well,
they
I think
did, but maybe they did.
Everybody was there.
Well, maybe they did, but it was actually Tony and Marv who arranged the vocals and gave them their harmonies to sing. Kind of like, here, this is what we're going to do.
Gotcha.
But regardless of that, like there are two schools of thought in writing and producing music from different artists I've run into over the years. Some believe that if you write just the melody and the lyrics alone, that's the writing part. You wrote the song. If you bring the session players in and they write their parts to it that you didn't tell them what to play, some artists will give you a little piece of writing or a point on the song, right? And then if you actually did the engineering / production work like David Rivkin did and brought that little thing that he brought in as an idea with the acoustic guitar gated part, Prince credited him for that. And it's tricky, but there is this thing where if you're a session player on any song for a major artist and they're signed or whatever, even if they're independent, there's this thing in the artist or in the royalty world called neighboring rights. Have you ever heard that term before?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've heard the term, but I don't necessarily know.
Okay. So what this means is there's a specific, more than one entity that collect what are called neighboring rights royalties for songs that you played on as a session player.
Mm-hmm.
And what these people do, these organizations, they actually look at album credits and who played on what. Even though they weren't credited as a writer, they were a session player on that, and they maybe contributed their own part. Or the producer said, this is what I want you to play. Or the artist said, here, I'm going to teach you this, but you're going to play this, or and modify it to your liking and maybe, or contribute whatever. So they see these credits, and then what they do is they collect funds from that somehow. I can't remember, but they do that. So, like for instance, I get money from this thing called the SAG-AFTRA Intellectual Property Rights Fund.
Okay.
And everybody in the revolution gets that money once a year for whatever we played on as session players. There's a little taste of all that comes in once a year.
But how is that possible if that was never agreed on by the artist that holds the main rights? I mean, is this you're just taking it from
It's
them?
a good no, it comes out of like the record labels are required to pay that. It's really interesting. They take it right off the top.
But if an artist says, okay, you're a session player, so I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars to come in here and play on these songs. You don't get any points in the song. You don't get any blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But then years down the road, this SAG-AFTRA IP thing comes in the picture, and
yes,
they can just pull from the revenue the song that wasn't even originally agreed upon.
Exactly. This started back in about 2009 or something. They developed this, and there's more than one organization that does this too.
Wow.
It's really interesting. I had a conversation with one of the people that works there recently, just so I could learn about how they do that, So it's still a little confusing to me, but it works. And it's really interesting how that works. So,
and I've always heard about on the points part of this. Is it true that all the Revolution shares 1 point on Purple Rain? Is that true, or is that not true?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay, I was hoping it wasn't true, but I guess it is true.
Why do you say that? Why
IP thing happening?
Well, you got that and the SAG-AFTRA thing on top of it,
right?
But it's not. But it's not always the same songs. That like for instance, I'm getting paid for certain songs that I maybe played on, but I wasn't credited on as a session play. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a little confusing to me actually. And then
even on Purple Rain Deluxe, when they release it and they remaster it and they do Purple Rain Deluxe, is your point still a part of all that, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But the issue is that if a song doesn't meet a certain threshold of royalty, then you don't see any of those neighboring rights. It has to meet a certain threshold.
Wow. That's
Yeah, it's
unreal.
really, really interesting how that's all been
Crazy.
working.
Well,
Like, what can I say? It's like, thank you, SAG-AFTRA, for doing
yeah,
that. You know,
I mean, why wouldn't you? Sure. I mean, especially if you knew that you were only there as a session player and didn't expect, because
right.
I've done session work I've done vocal stuff on a lot of albums and for a variety of different artists, and some, had some selling stuff, but I would never think to even pursue something like that, because I know my arrangement was with that artist was to just come and sing and do
Well,
background vocals, do what I needed to do. And that's it.
none of us had to pursue the SAG-AFTRA thing. They're the ones who pursued it. They just start. They have this database and they look at
Either way.
everything that's selling, and then they actually just send it to you based on that. It's not. They don't contact me. All of a sudden, I just saw a check show up one day, and I went, "What the heck is this?"
I'll take it.
Exactly. It's really strange.
I mean, do you mind me asking what are we talking about? Like 3 digits, 4 digits, or what are we talking about?
Oh, usually, anywhere from 4 to 5 every year.
I mean, that's great. I mean,
yeah,
that's fantastic. That's great. I mean,
since 2009 when they started the fund.
Man, nice.
Yeah. And then there's also there's a couple other ones that do similar things.
Oh, and we can't, before we move off of Kiss, I think we can't leave it without first me saying it is probably easily one of the greatest 12-inch dance mixes on the friggin' planet. I think the only thing that comes in close or beats it is La 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 He, in my opinion. Like the 12-inch mixes is just unreal. There, ow, put your foot on the rock. I mean, all that stuff is just, oh my gosh, it's got so much funk. But also, I think this is a part. Let me see if this is it. You got it. I love all the weird, very northern, for a lot of people that don't know, maybe from the South or maybe from other countries or whatever. That argument is so Midwestern and Northern. I'm from Jersey, so it's like listening to a family thing. It's just so funny. I don't know if that kind of stuff just stands out to me. Once again, another one of these weird little quirky nuances that he would pepper into these songs, and it's like, oh my gosh, just stop. All right, another Lover Hole in Your Head. This is another track that you played on, so I'm glad that you played on this one. When the song was first recorded, it was just called Hole in Your Head, and then of course they changed it to Another Lover Hole in Your Head. I mean, if I asked 20 Prince fans to accurately spell out what it was changed to, I think maybe I think I'd be lucky if half of them got it right. I would think, just because of the way the words are smashed together, and some of it's not even a word. What do you remember most about this song, about as far as participating with this track, another full band scenario?
Just that it was a lot of fun.
I bet.
I mean, it's like, here, play this. I wasn't asked to create anything on that. It was just, here's your parts, just do these in the studio. Basically, it was one of those.
So were you part of that day of sessions that this came? Because what's interesting about this song, Another Lover Hole in Your Head, is that it was done in the same sessions that literally created multiple, like the same days, like the whole week, that created multiple tracks from Graffiti Bridge. So Another Lover Hole in Your Head was done like in the same window as Databank, Can't Stop the Feeling I Got, and We Can Funk.
Oh, I worked on Can't Stop This Feeling I Got. I remember working on that one.
Yeah, but isn't it insane that he was literally writing tracks for an album that was going to be 3 years down the road?
Yeah, well, sure. He had all that sitting around, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, just insane.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so which brings us to the last song in the mix. Sometimes It Snows in April. The closer.
Right.
This song is kind of, obviously, since he's passed, is taken on a life of its own. Again, for new Prince fans, to over-explain things a little bit, this is actually a song that coincides with the character's death in the movie Under the Cherry Moon. But what's crazy about this song is that it was recorded on April 21st, which is the day that he died. And it's talking about the death of this person.
Yeah.
And of course, it's just, the song is called Sometimes It Snows in April. There's just so many weird little nuances of this track that make it almost seem like, I guess a lot of the conspiracy theorists come out now as just like, it's a really weird happenstance. When you learned of some of those nuances about the similarities between the content of this song, the history of the song, when it was recorded and all this, and how it coincided with his passing, did that strike you weird at all? Or were you just like, that seems commonplace for Prince, just to kind of be at the right place at the right time and just be able to create history right out of the gate? I mean, was there any specific nuance that you thought of when you heard this track or when you learned some of that?
Yeah, no, Prince is a strong spirit, and he really was in tune with all aspects of what we say are paranormal things, but they're really not. That's just normal for all of us, really.
Yeah.
And so whether he planned his exit to coincide with the same day that was recorded, and the content of that song is a mystery, but I wouldn't put it past him that he, from what I understand, he told his sister Taika about a year before he passed, he says, "I'm not long for this world." She was on NBC in an interview talking about this after he passed. I mean, it was like,
he had to not be happy about that for sure. I mean,
about her talking about that?
Yeah, I would think.
Well, regardless, if he wasn't,
well, I mean, but she did it posthumously. So
for her to reveal that I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know if I don't know if he would have appreciated that or not, but if his intention was to leave this life and do it coinciding with all of that, I wouldn't put it past him. Or is it a coincidence or not? I don't know. I mean,
there's so many things. Yeah, there's so many things, and it's not even. There's just so many weird things about it. But as far as this song is concerned, to craft it the way that he crafted it, he actually does vocals with Wendy at the beginning of it, and it's Wendy and Prince, and Wendy kind of flowed off key a couple times during this, vocal banter that they were doing back and forth. And when Wendy asked if she could do it over, Prince said no, because yet again, he had these little quirky nuances, and he was like, I want that rawness of it. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard that particular part of it with the piano just taken out, where you're just listening to the vocals, but it's pretty incredible. It's just so haunting to be able to hear it without the accompanying piano that's kind of rolling in the background, because when you pull it out and you just listen to what they were doing back and forth, just kind of feeding off of each other in that moment. I don't really know whether or not the piano part or whatever was being played when they were doing it. I feel like Prince and Wendy just had an idea where they were going and just kind of took it from there.
Do you have the piano part separated already somewhere?
Yeah, I do actually.
I'd love to get a cop. I'd love to get a copy of that
Yeah, I
if
mean, because
possible.
just the piano parts, it's they're sparse. It doesn't really come.
The reason I ask is because I'm performing that song coming up April 21st for Maite's charity event
Oh, that's nice.
in Los Angeles with St. Paul and the Funk All Stars.
Oh,
We're
that's
doing a
beautiful.
special event there. I don't know if you seen that yet announced?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can clean this up for you. I can see if I can pull it out for you.
Yeah, it'd be great to have that just for reference.
But yeah, it's an amazing event. That's the Live for Love charities scenario. So yeah, that's a great event. And actually, I'm trying to think it's liveforlove.org. You can go and you can get tickets to that. It's happening April 21st on the anniversary of his passing.
Yeah.
Man, what an incredible album, what an incredible layout. And I can't thank you enough for coming in here and walking through this album with us, because it's still mind-boggling to me that it's been 40 years since this album. I remember I was 17 when this album came out, and I remember holding this album in my hand, and I was riding on the bus, and because that's what we did back in the day, is we would bring the albums that we had just bought, and we would be reading them on the bus and looking at all the liner notes and just kind of absorbing what and then driving ourselves crazy, not knowing we wouldn't be able to listen to it until we got home, but we wanted to show it to all of our friends and try to fit it in the locker at that weird angle.
Well, just so I'm sure you've heard Prince's quote that time is a trick.
It is.
Yeah. So that's where we are. It's like I was just having dinner with my wife and my son tonight, and we just said, can you believe it's been 10 years since so and so passed away from someone in our family, and it just feels like yesterday. And then we brought up Prince as well, because that happened the same time frame. So in fact, it was my father-in-law who passed away the week after Prince did. So it was a really difficult time for us, and so it doesn't seem like 10 years to me. And like I said, the COVID years were like this weird time warp black hole. They're like 2.5 years or so of just, it seemed like it really went by slowly yet quickly at the same time, because it was like Groundhog Day to me. Every day melted into the next because of that. Even though I tried to stay creative, and I was working with a company at that time, which was music business based, but it was just it was a difficult time.
Was that the My Music?
It was that My Music project and a record label that was happening at that time, a new label, amongst other things. Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of work to take on. And I mean, I'm glad there's people out like yourself that are out there at least trying to get things moving and trying to help out the artist, because there are so many amazing musicians that are out there right now that need a helping hand. And luckily we got to experience one of the greatest, and then you got to work with one of the greatest and share a stage with and memories and life with this incredible individual. I mean, in my opinion, I can't think there's no other artist on the planet before, or that I can't feasibly think after, that could ever compare to the capabilities of Prince and his just writing styles and his gift and his expertise on every single instrument that he touches. And I just don't, his energy and drive, just the output itself is unmatched, unparalleled. Who does that? But man.
Yeah, very true. It was really an amazing experience. I was very fortunate to be a part of his world for almost 12 years.
Man. And we're blessed to be able to experience you too. I mean, you have some very, very amazing and memorable pieces of your own work in there. And I'm glad that you're still out there doing it. And again, yeah, so that's the next opportunity that people are going to be able to get to see you is going to be on April 21st in LA.
Yes.
And that's in the Hilton in LA, I believe, is what I remember correctly, I think.
I don't remember, but go to the website or go on Instagram and look up Maite's charity, and then you'll be able to get the details.
Well, all I can say is thank you so much again for coming on and just, experience this with us and kind of walking through, because I felt like we needed to do something. It's the 40th anniversary of this album, and I thought it deserved more than just a tweet or a Facebook post. It's an honor to have you here, man. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the one, the only, the legendary Dr. Fink. Right there. That's the man. And also, I want to make sure that if you guys have not had an opportunity to be able to check out the interview that Fink did with Michael Bland and myself, it's been quite a few months now. It's been 6 or so months. It's been a while. It's been months, but it was such a fun interview, and I learned so much more about you. And every time you come on, I learned something about you. And I'm glad to say that I actually taught you something about Parade tonight. A couple little tricks and features and whatnot. So, man.
Yeah.
And it was an honor to experience this with you. Thank you so much for coming on, Matt. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much once again. Love you. Have a good week off. We will see you in a couple Tuesdays. For right now, adios, amigos y amigas. Join patreon.com/Funkatopia. I do a lot of posts there. I've been doing a lot more than usual. So thank you so much for joining us again. I can't thank you enough, apparently. Good night, everyone.